maybe that's got fear of rejection.
I haven't.
You do or you don't?
No, I do.
Okay.
And I could see where that came from as well. I've been through enough therapy, so I have a little more of an enlightened perspective, but,
Enlighten us.
well, when my parents, when I was very young, my parents got married very early, and my mother was pregnant with me when they got married.
Mhm.
My father, my parents were only 19 and 20 when they had me. So my father was a very, very, very bright man. He was abused. His father was, his parents were alcoholics, but I think he took some of the anger out of my mother because she got pregnant. You know, like he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And because he had grand hopes for himself. I mean, he had gotten scholarships in Latin and math to go to college, but his parents wouldn't allow him because they wanted him to go out to work to support their drinking habit. So I think he had this anger, and he was verbally and for a short amount of time physically abusive to my mother. And I remember hearing that at night. And he mellowed as he aged, and he still, you know, he still got it. Although you talk about the apple of your father's, I was the apple of my father's. But I remember, you know, there was always that loom of, you know, my father saying, if you don't like it, leave, or leave, or leave if you don't like it. And so I think that.
When someone says leave if you don't like it, they're having a really huge, big fear of abandonment, because as soon as you walk out the door, they say, oh no, don't leave me, why are you, you know, why are you going? It's a big manipulation, it's a big threat.
Right. And it was being said to my mother, but I was, you know, I was worried about, you know, them, something happening with them, obviously, so.
No, you weren't worried about something happening to them, you were
With
worried
me.
about what's gonna happen to you.
Yes.
Because that's where the fear of abandonment is, what's gonna happen to you. Because children that live in that kind of environment ends up internalizing, they awfulize the situation because they don't have the know-how to cope with that. They don't have the know-how, what's gonna happen to me if, okay? And that's part of the fear, that even the internal decision could be, I don't know what's gonna happen to me. So they go through life wondering what's gonna happen to them, regardless of what the situation is, even though they know intellectually nothing is gonna happen too much, because they know as they grow they have control over that. But it's almost like it's almost like the greyhound, mechanical greyhound chasing the hare. They never catch up with the hare, but the hound doesn't know that. Or even a real one actually when they're chasing the hare, okay? And it's anticipating, it's like projecting what's gonna happen, because you need that security to know what's gonna happen, and you probably do a lot of that. You probably make sure you know what's gonna happen, because you get anxious if you don't.
Yes, I have to.
That's me. Yes. So that's part of, that definitely stems from the fear of abandonment and making those decisions when you're little, because you make a decision, what's happening with the parents, especially when you have one threatening the other one to leave. You gotta make sure that's never gonna happen to you.
And I've always been driven to be my own person and not be dependent
Absolutely.
on somebody.
Well, that was the gift. That's the gift.
Yes, and
Got it? That's the gift.
I do agree with you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That because there's always a gift in these things, because we pick the parents for some reason that we need to learn something about ourselves, but that's the gift. That you developed your independence, and you weren't dependent on somebody deciding. But the emotional component is the part that gets tricky, and the emotional component is the part that interferes with our full relationship with somebody else. Because there's a non-trust issue there. And the decision is, nobody is ever going to do that to me.
Absolutely.
So
I've
what-
said that verbatim.
But what happens with a decision like that is we then don't know how to navigate through a real relationship and bargain when we need to bargain or compromise in it, because nobody's going to do that to me, because it blocks everything down. And yeah, you can love me, you can promise the world, but I don't trust you. How do I know?
And the irony is, my parents are gonna be celebrating their 60th anniversary, and I'm gonna be celebrating my 29th. So despite that, we've managed to maintain our relationship.
Absolutely, because what they were doing that's their relationship.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they're able to embrace a full one.
That's true.
So, you know, you just do some healing work about the decision you made. Because it was your decision that you made. And you may be, you know, you may find yourself looking for reasons why not to trust your partner. Or not to believe when he says he really loves you. Because you're protecting yourself. Just in case he walks out the door. Have you ever told him he could walk out the door if he wanted to?
Yeah. By the way.
There you go. Interesting, isn't it? Yeah, fascinating. I always find it fascinating.
Oops.
As one of my clients told me the other day, two or 3 days ago, she was kind of suicidal and she's sitting there and she's with her partner, they're both females, and she's crying and I'm asking her, are you suicidal? And she goes, yes. And I just said very casually, but how would you do that? I would take all my pills. Now if somebody makes a statement like that, I have to do something about it. And after a while she says to me, you know, you're very, very tricky. She said, you should be upstairs being a therapist. Philomena, you're just tricky. But she felt I tricked her. I so casually said it, it came out of her mouth. And if someone is going to try suicide and they have a plan, then we are obligated to you know, do all what we have to do to prevent. It kind of blindsided her. She wasn't expecting for that to come out of my mouth. But it was just funny the way she said, you're very tricky. It's like that, you know, have you ever threatened your husband? You're very, yep. Real quick, help! Well, you know why? You can give that up now.
I'm sorry?
You can give it up. Find a new solution to whatever problem is annoying you about him instead of having him walk out the door. Because what would you do if he actually did one day? Oh, I know why. Because he has the fear of abandonment too. Well, so he's not going to walk out the door no more than you are.
You're stuck with each other.
Philomena, you're so tricky.
That makes perfect sense. You can both jab at each other, threaten each other. You're not going anywhere.
I mean, that's not a daily thing.
No, I know it's
in
not.
the heat of a big argument.
It's always in the big arguments out of anger. Nobody pays attention to it, but it's still a very deep-seated hurt in there between the both of you, because he's bringing his in and you're bringing yours in, and both of you know you're not going to do anything about it. Can you imagine what your life would be like without that being there? You'd have a lot more emotional intimacy for one thing, because that can be really scary when you have fear of abandonment. Oh my God. Burn me at the stake instead.
We have a few what?
Don't tell me that's what happened in my life.
No, it probably happened in her life.
I was going to say, it doesn't mean anything.
In our lives. But it's amazing how we carry the patterns. And they're there. And we are so arrogant we think, not us. You know, not us. Me, I wouldn't do that. Hell yes, you would.